It's Don here from the board. Thank you for coming along and checking out another one of our videos. Today I'm going to be doing a keyboard review, but what makes this keyboard a little bit different to the normal ones that I do is that it's actually going to be the first RGB keyboard that I've actually had in my possession to review. So before we sort of go any further from this though, full disclosure of course, this keyboard was sent to me by GearBest for review, and this video is not a paid advertisement from GearBest, nor is it a paid advertisement from AJAZZ, which is the actual brand of the keyboard. So I'll be having a look at the AJAZZ AK33, and of course I'll actually have a link below, just in response and courtesy of course to GearBest for actually providing me this keyboard. Now anything and everything that I say is purely of my own opinion as I unbox this, as I have a look, as I examine the features, and so if I don't like it, I'm going to say so. If I like it, and so on and so forth. But of course, if you are a long-time subscriber, you know that's just how I do things. So let's just go and check it out. Now, before I actually get to doing the unboxing part of it and having a look at it in person, I'm just going to bring up onto the screen what the actual specs and details are. So if I switch over to the monitor, so there's the AJAZZ AK33. Now I don't know if this is a new revision, because I know that this keyboard has actually been around for quite a long time. I know that other people have reviewed this over a year ago, and so it was interesting that GearBest said, hey, would you be interested in reviewing a keyboard? And I went, sure, why not? And this is the one that they chose. So if we sort of just zip down, we can have a look at that. It says it's AJAZZ is the brand. It has ABS keycaps by the looks of it. It comes with a wired cable length of 1.6 without Bluetooth. We've got USB 2. There's 82 keys. They claim the 50 million keystrokes, of course, and it's a mechanical keyboard. So they reckon that the package weight is 0.95 of a kilo, and the actual keyboard itself is 0.61 kilograms. Now this is a little bit unusual because they've actually said that there is a 2017 revision where there's a whole bunch of changes to it, and you can see, you know, the gaming that's very orientated towards a gaming kind of community, gaming kind of user, and they've shown a full size down to a 10 keyless, and then they've come down to 82 keys. So it's a little bit weird how they've done this overlap here, but you know, that's just how it is. They've got software. Now I'm not going to play really around with any software. I'm going to be looking at the hardware and just the plug and play features of the keyboard as it is. Now, as I said, I've not had an RGB keyboard before, so it's actually going to be kind of exciting for me just to see what it's like. And I will turn off the room light so we can see how well it glows in the dark and sort of sits just as is. The only other keyboard sort of that I've had that's got lighting is my Ducky Legend, and that's just got white LEDs. So you can see it's got lots of fancy pictures trying to appeal to League of Legends players. And what I'm finding interesting is that it's described with a blue switch, but they don't actually state what the blue mechanical switch is. It's got clear tops, and yeah, it seems like there's a quick detach cable by the looks of it. And when we go down to the questions, you know, somebody says what kind of switch it has, and they just say it's a blue switch. So we'll find out. So let's hop over to the desktop, and there is the box. Now this is completely unopened. It was well packaged. It came via DHL relatively quickly. I don't know if that's the normal shipping method if you were to purchase this from GearBest. There was really no damage. There's a little bit of sort of impact crush here, but other than that, it's okay. Something's obviously moving around in the container, but I don't know what that is. And there's a couple of stickers in here, some Chinese, maybe a serial number, product number. If we flip over to the back, a lot of it's written in Chinese, so I can't really distinguish very much of that, but it's got obviously its dimensions, product weight, 610 plus or minus 20 grams, it's 82 keys, it takes 200 milliamps. I'm not sure what that, I think that's 50 million keystrokes. The travel is 4 mil plus or minus 0.3, and it's compatible for Windows XP 7, 8. And there you have it. So it's black, made in China, but nothing else really gives it away about what year or model it is, even though the website claims that they have a 2007 revision. Now, first and foremost, I've got my scales here, my kitchen scales. I want to check out that claim that it was 950 grams. So let's just pop that on. Wow, that's actually, I'm really surprised. They've nailed the packaging down squat, 951. So let's just take away, it's back to 0, and let's just put that back on, 951. So I can tell you what, their marketing department is spot on. So first unveiling, let's check it out. Now, it's quite a large box, to be honest, and it's quite a thick box. So it's a lot thicker than what I would have expected, possibly almost, you know, a third bigger than what I would have expected for a keyboard of this size. So we'll see how well it's packed and what it comes with, hey? Now this is, of course, the first time I've opening it, so they've got another box inside, which would possibly explain why it's a bigger box than it has to be. But look at it, it's a beautiful presentation box now. I guess that's one way to guarantee your product is not going to get so damaged as easily. So let's just put that aside. So now this time there is absolutely nothing except for the Geek logo and AK33, and I think that's meant to say only victory, AJAZZ, only victory. So let's go through the second layer of this packaging, and there we go. Rightio. So it's got some high density foam on the edges there. That was what we heard there, the key puller, keycap puller, just a standard plastic thing. And there's a brush. That's pretty cool. Maybe I should just take the keyboard out first, hey? But okay, so we've got a brush. It's just a synthetic brush. It's not terribly fantastic because the end of the brush hasn't even been trimmed evenly. It looks pretty cheap. Feels pretty cheap, but what can I say? Alright, so it's just end cut. It's layered, glued, so can't expect very much from that. Now on the bottom here we've got a sort of a quick application guide, and then over here we've got a brochure which looks to be advertising for an AJAZZ mouse and a product warranty card. Okay, so you can QR code that if you feel like it. And here is our cable. So let's take those out. I'm going to put the phone back in. Going to put the brush back in. We'll take this out from this slip. Ooh, okay. And let's just close this baby up and put it aside for the moment. Now, the scales are still out because what they had said was it was 610 grams plus or minus 20 grams. Here's the keyboard. Nothing else. Oh, it's got a bit of plastic on the back of it, but should be within that range. So it's 560. Now, if we add the cable, 615. So 610 plus or minus 20. That's not bad. That's not bad. So at least in that aspect, they've got that pretty good. So let's just put the scale away and have a look at this AJAZZ. Now, it's actually I don't think I have a keyboard of this layout, and I'm just trying to. Ooh, wow. Okay, I've just noticed that escape key. What the heck is with that escape key? Okay, so it kind of, the first thought that I had was it looks like a 65% keyboard, because there's your 60 and then you got the extra row there. Now I know that some people call that kind of like a 68 or even a 75 because it's got the function row up the top here. I don't know if there is a correct sort of accurate form factor. I'm sure there is, and whoever's watching this video I know you're going to correct me and put it in the comments, but first initial impressions was that it was going to be like that. But now the more I look at this, the more it's messing with my head, because not only have you got a weird escape key here, you've got an unusual delete insert key. Then down the bottom, you've got 125 arrow keys, and then this end print screen, a super short 125 shift, and yeah, it's just a really odd kind of way of doing things. Now, even looking at this though, the quality, how do I describe it? It looks like it should be a premium kind of product, considering that the keycaps are nice. They've got a good font on them. There's no lighting, so it looks almost like you could use this in an office environment. The plate up here, this silver colored plate, I don't know what material it is yet because I haven't really played with it to feel it, but it looks like reasonable, looks posh. But then when you look at these weird keycaps, it really throws you off. And just sitting here, it probably doesn't show very well, but there's this huge channel, this gap right here. And I don't know if it's the keycaps or it's just because the spacing, because the back edge here lines up straight, but you've got 125s, 1s, and then you got this straight edge from this 60 block, and then you got this 125 gap here again. So the fact that this doesn't line up all the way, I think is really throwing me off just visually, because it just looks really weird. Okay, I got to get past that. We got to keep going. It's a good weight. I mean, 500, 600 grams. It's not ultra light, but it's also not ultra heavy for a keyboard of this size, this form factor. I'm just going to leave that plastic on for the moment. Now, it is quite clicky. I will pull the keycaps off in a moment to check it out, but it's got AJAZZ written on the back here. You've got some fold out, some flip out feet. There's a bit of rubber feet on the bottom. You've just got a simple branding on the back. So it's quite muted in general. Now, in terms of, is that top plastic or metal? It feels plastic. I think it might be plastic. If it was steel, it would be very thin. You know, we can test this really easily with my multimeter. I hadn't originally planned on doing that, but I figured while I've actually got it, why not? Now, if you're looking at what I'm wearing right now and you're like, it's a bit unusual, it's hot. It's summer and it's hot. So there's no apologies there in the fact that I'm wearing a tank top because it's Australia. So there's my resistance setting. I put my probes together and it'll come down to less than 1 ohm. All right, about 0.7 across the contacts. And all I'm going to do is just check this out. Oh, look at that. So it looks like it is indeed a metal plate. Now, I'm not getting any contact happening up here, and I don't know why that is. It might be that surface finish, but if I touch it to the edge of the case, I mean to the edge of that top plate, the shiny edge, it does actually read down. So it is, in fact, a metal plate. That's pretty cool. It's better than I was expecting, because I was just thinking for the price and for the weight, even though it looked like it was metal, it didn't feel like it straight off the mark. You know, it wasn't cold to the touch or anything like that. But that said, you know, the temperature in here, it's been in a box, who knows. So, just having a quick feel of the switches. They are definitely clicky. The keycaps feel light, they feel thin, and they sound it as well. Because the larger keys have a certain sort of hollowness to them. Especially these arrow keys, being these fat arrow keys. But you know what? They don't feel like they wobble excessively, and they are ABS. You can kind of feel they do this squeaky thing because my fingers are quite dry at the moment. So I just let's do the sound test while we're at it anyway. So you can hear the squeakiness. So that's dry finger contact, and let's just do some random typing. I wouldn't say it's an unpleasant sound, but the keycaps do give it a bit of a lighter, more hollow sound, but not a rich, deep, hollow sound at all. So, keycap puller, next stage. And let's have a look at what we're dealing with here. Let's take a couple off so we can get right in. Oh. Alright, so just taking 4 off there. And excuse me while I hold this up to the light. I don't know what these switches are. They're AJAZZ switches. So I don't know what AJAZZ switches are, but I don't know if the camera is going to show it or not. I'm just going to rack it right up and hope that it might come into focus. There we go. There we go. I'm just going to tilt it, maybe. It'll show it. Okay, so if you have a look at that bottom left one, it actually says AJAZZ. So they've gone and done their own switch tops. And then they've got like a diffusing kind of LED. It's like a solid block. That's the LED. Lots of diffusion happening there. So that's really interesting. Now you can see one of the screws here that's holding the plate as well, just right next to the P. And if I just have a quick look, there's another one that's between 7 and 8. There's one between the E and D. Ooh, where else? I think there's another one over here between the left and down arrows, and maybe another one here between the Win key and Control. So it's got quite a few screws that are holding it down. Now if I look to the front, you can see that it looks like it's using cherry type of stabilizers, but we'll confirm that just in a moment. So let's just put some keycaps back on. JKLUIOP. Rightio. So there we go. And oh, that was unexpected. It's got a purple switch. It's a much stiffer spring, so whatever that purple series is, once again it says AJAZZ, but it does have a heavier spring, I guess, to counteract the fact that the actual keycap is longer, and it does use what looks to be sort of knockoff-ish cherry type stabilizers, but they look like they're plate mounted stabilizers because they have the portion of it sitting on top of the plate as opposed to a hole cut through, and you can see there's another screw hole there. So it's got a black PCB underneath it, which doesn't really matter, but that's a nice touch rather than the standard sort of bog standard green. And while we're at it, I should have done it just before, but there's the keycap. You can see it is quite thin, as I was talking about before, and it's just the standard sort of black shot over the top of the white, and then they've probably etched it. Maybe you can feel it. It has been sort of laser etched, I think, to allow that shine through. So, and it's, you know, it's a light flimsy cap because you can see how much torsion I can get on that spacebar. But it's a cheap entry level keyboard, and there's not terribly much you can say about it. Now here comes the plastic peeling part that some people love and hate, because of course we need to experience all of that in its glory. Nice sheen. You can see the reflection and showing off my microphone set up above it. Now, of course, I'm sure there'll be comments about going slower, but didn't want to go too slow. So, flip out feet. Let's check it out. Right, so there's only one layer of flip out feet, not two. That one doesn't really snap in very well. That one snaps in a bit better. That one's quite loose by comparison. That one's got a bit more resistance. And the feet, they feel pretty good. If I put that down and sort of give it a light bump, it doesn't really go very far very quickly, but I wouldn't say it offers the greatest of resistances, simply because the keyboard is really light. Now the twist test. So I'm just going to hold that firmly. That's actually quite rigid. I'm impressed with that. I think it does have a bit of flex. You can kind of see it, but I am putting actually quite a lot of force into that, and I think the thickness of that plate really does help. And the fact that the overall thickness of the keyboard with that plastic shell does help hold it. Now I don't know if there's any other layers in between that are metal, but probably not considering the weight. And I've just noticed it's got a green sticker up the top there. Maybe that's like a quality control sticker or something. I don't know. So externally, I mean, I've just gone and put my fingers all over that and flexed it, and it's not actually holding prints at the moment. So that's pretty nice. Look, see, it's still all print free. Might be because my fingers are dry, but maybe it will when it gets a little bit oily. There is a weird sort of cutout here. I don't know if it was part of molding, demolding, or if it was another design that could allow you to have, say, I don't know, dip switches or something like that on the PCB that you could change settings with. There is the standard mini B USB connection as well, and that seems to be it without actually plugging it in. So here's our cable. They reckon it's 1.6 meters. Looks about right. I'm not going to get too fussed about it. A red bit of plastic connecting inside, a little bit unusual. I don't think I've ever seen that. It's typically just either white or black or something of that nature. It's got a reasonable length. So let's plug that in. Now, I do have my USB reading device. So this is the, I did a video with this a little while ago, just checking the power draw on it. So I'm going to use it again, and we can check out the power draw on this AJAZZ AK33. So let's go. First and foremost, there we go. We have liftoff. So it's pulling 4.9, and it's pulling about 0.03 amps. Can't really see that very well, but it's fluctuating between 0.3 and 0.4 amps at the moment. There we go, and it's kicking around a 92, 94, 93. So nothing terribly unusual about that, but the lighting mode is, it's breathing, pulsing, moving, cycling. So it's sweeping left to right, blue, green, red, which is pretty nifty. Now I do need to open something so I can free bash without going all funny. And let's just see what happens when I start typing on it. If anything actually happens. No. Now that I'm typing on it properly, rather than just mashing keys, it does have a bit of ping on the spacebar by the sounds of it. I wouldn't say it's unpleasant, like I said before, but the thin caps really do give it a lighter sound, and you do hear the tinnier, well, not tinnier, but the tinnier sound of the switches and keycaps. So let's just check out some of the features, I guess, from the manual on the quick start. Ooh, I've just gone and blocked my screen so I can't see what I'm doing on the video. There we go. So there's the quick guide, and let's check out, oh, it's Chinese. Is there an English for us who don't speak Chinese? No, does not appear to be English. So crikey, this will be good. I can't even Google Translate this. So let's see, where's the function key? There's the function key. Okay, there's the function key right up the top there. And that's around. So it says function tilde does something. And it's got 8 over here, so maybe that's like 8 modes or something. So let's go function tilde. Oh, okay, so there's your WASD. Actually, I'm going to turn off the room light because that might make things a little bit easier to see. Alrighty-o. So that was the first function, tilde. We've got some WASD, R, and some numbers lit up there. Now we've got a caps lock pulsing. Okay, so maybe that's like a program mode or something. I honestly don't know. I can't read what this says. I could probably look it up on the internet in English, but I can't be bothered right now. So, function up and function down. I'm assuming this is going to be something to do with brightness. I'm just messing with this caps lock right now. Yeah, I think it's some kind of programming. Who knows? I don't know what I'm doing to the keyboard right now, but it might not be a good idea. So let's go function up. Doesn't seem to be doing much. Function down. Oh, okay. So it's brightness, because we can see it's getting brighter, and it's off, I guess. Now, whoa. See, that's not given a true accurate representation because it's not lighting up the whole keyboard. So I'm going to ignore the power draw at the moment. Let's see what else. Function left and function right. So let's just rack up that brightness. Let's go function left. I don't know what that did. Function right. I don't know what that did either. Function plus. Where's the plus? Function plus. Function minus. I don't know if this is going to work, simply because I've gone and broken the mode by setting it into this mode. I don't know how I can get out. Function 1, nope. Function. Oh, okay. So that just opened my music, which I did not intend. This is really interesting. Now, if I unplug this, I don't know if it's going to restore me back to defaults or not. No! Okay. I don't know how to get back to the normal mode. So obviously the function and the secondaries use these hotkeys up here, but I've gone and done something with this function mode, so maybe I can turn and cycle these keys as part of this recording mode by the looks of it. Well, the function still works in regards to left and right, but you can see I'm just lighting up all these different keys. This is not going well. This is not going well at all. So you know what? Bear with me while I do a quick Google search because I don't think I'm going to be able to get through this review without being able to find some documentation on this. Now, of course, I realize that this video is already dragging out because it's 30 minutes, but hey, I've got to do something thorough because they were kind enough to send it to me, and you know, I like to. I don't. Well, that's not very helpful at all. Their download center seems to only have drivers rather than manuals. So let's see if I can find a manual. I only want to go to a download center, but the download center at AJAZZ seemed to be only focused on drivers, which you know what, I can't believe it. Let's see. AJAZZ manual. Okay. Now, of course, I might not. Okay, so it's apparently, from what I can see on the internet, they use Zorro switches and they're just rebranded tops that say AJAZZ. So that's at least a nice pickup, but it doesn't seem like anybody's actually got a manual. So that's really interesting. Let's see if I can find something about how to control the RGB. Okay, here we go. I've got something where somebody's actually got some details. Somebody else's review. Just come on, tick over. It's interesting because I don't see or know of anything here that gives me a sort of hardware reset, a soft reset maybe, where I can just go and it'll just take the RGB off and go back to its normal mode. But I guess that's just how it is. Why does this website take so long? Alright, well, maybe I can't rely on that one. There seems to be a decent amount of reviews out there anyway, but I don't know why nobody seems to have any details on the actual control of it, on how to actually drive it. Yeah, this is very stumping to me. Very stumping to me. But you know what? I may have to just leave it, because if it doesn't ship with English instructions and it's not easy to find English instructions online, then, well, that's not very good, is it? And if somebody like me who is interested in getting an RGB keyboard and being able to program it, and I hit this kind of hiccup and I was somebody who was easily frustrated, then it would be a really big turn off, because now I've got a keyboard that's all sorts of funny right now. I mean, you know, it seems like I can turn on and turn off and change the lights however I want, but then I don't know how to get out of this particular mode. If there is any particular way for me to get out of this mode. So I'm just going to light this all back up manually, because I can, and then let's get out of that. So that's the keyboard fully lit up in its random mishmash glory, and I'm just going to flick that over and have a look at how much power it's drawing, and it's now drawing 0.07. Let's see if that'll read a little bit better. 0.07 up to 9 milliamps. Yeah, 0.07 to 0.09 milliamps. So it's gone up a little bit. Actually, it's not too bad, all things considering. But if I turn it all off somehow, is there even a mode to turn it all off? Yeah, okay, so if I cycle through all the colors, then it will actually turn off. But it might just be faster to dim it all the way down, and then we can see it practically draws nothing with no lights on at all. It's all the way back down to 0, as you can see there on the indicator. 0, flicking a little bit up to 1, but very, very little. And I would expect that because it really shouldn't have much power draw at all. Now, if I go back and crank up the colors all the way, it's actually not that bright. Now, the camera makes it look that bright, but in a dark environment that I'm currently in, with the front screen of my monitor actually lighting up, it's not like so bright and intensive that it hurts my eyes, even though on the screen, because of the way that the camera is actually trying to white balance this and brighten it, because it's just how its automatic sets are, it's actually okay. I think it looks really... It does look nice if you're going to spend the time and effort to actually set it right. Now, it had its rolling, scrolling, breathing mode, and that was pretty cool. But, you know, I would say that I'm underwhelmed by RGB. I don't really look at my keys if I'm playing because I'm going to be looking at the screen. And in terms of decorative piece, you know, I don't sit there and go agog at lights changing. Breathing modes, pulsing modes, and stuff like that. It's nice, it's fancy, but for a home use, it's probably not that big a deal for me. If I'm going to be out, if I take this somewhere and I'm, you know, having a LAN party, or I'm at a friend's place or whatever, sure, it's something to show off and something to have a bit of fun with. But I would say I would never use that kind of lighting mode at work at all. And the reason why I say at work is simply because if you actually change these keycaps out and you turned off the RGB, I think it would actually work really well in an office environment. It's sleek, it's small, it's compact, it's lightweight, it's got function keys. Besides the fact that it's got a really weird keycap sizing, the layout, I don't understand why they did that. I really don't. It would actually be something you could use in an office. And that's actually an honest opinion. And having that steel plate adds a bit of level of almost professionalism to it, but it definitely does reduce its gamer look. And even the font on this is actually relatively normal. It's not fancy, it doesn't have that blockiness, it doesn't have those cutouts like, you know, military spray stencils. There's nothing in here that screams gamer until you turn these lights on. So speaking about turning lights on, I'm going to turn the room light back on because I don't want to be sitting in the dark. And yeah, I guess it's time to wrap up on the AJAZZ 33 and its very quick application guide that did very little for me at all. I'm stumped. I'm flabbergasted. I would like to say that this is probably not the best first-hand experience of an RGB keyboard, but it is what it is. Now, with the room light on, you see it's quite washed out under the camera because everything else is brightly lit, but from where I'm actually sitting, it's actually still quite distinct. It's still quite lit up. Now, if I did somehow color map these so that, you know, I had particular keys that were color mapped for particular functions and things like that, I would be able to easily see and distinguish that. But is that something that I'm likely to do or use? Probably not. Probably not. Rightio. So, yeah, there you have it. The AJAZZ AK33. If it's the 2017 edition, I don't know, because there's nothing here that seems to be specifically mentioning or distinguishing that. Now, if I flip it over the back, nothing on the back says it at all. There's no numbers, there's no distinguishing features. I mean, it's got a serial number, it's got 17 in it, but that could mean anything, to be honest. There's nothing special that seems to be labeled or imprinted anywhere, not even on the box. So yeah, there you have it. Now, it's cheap. Does it feel cheap? No, actually, to be honest. Does it look cheap? No, it doesn't. Now, when I say cheap, just before when we were having a look at the GearBest site for it, it was $50 something on sale Australian. And that's actually quite affordable considering that I think the sale even said that it had free shipping with it too. So if you're looking to get into the mechanical keyboard market, if you're looking to get into a mechanical keyboard experience and you want something that's kind of versatile, if you're not intending to change the keycaps, then I would say this is actually really good value. If you want to change the keycaps, you're going to get in trouble because of these weird keys. I'm not saying it's impossible, it just means you're going to have to use something like grab bags to, you know, fill out these keycaps, and then you might end up with like a unicorn vomit set, unless if you have novelties and things like that, that can fill it out for you. And then of course you have to work out the actual lighting effects. But I think I would be relatively happy. Now, I don't know terribly much about Zorro switches, except they're a clone of the MX variety, just in terms of general typing and usage that I've been doing here with it. You know, they don't feel too bad. I wouldn't say they feel particularly gritty. The click isn't super loud. It's not super sharp either. Like, there's not that crispness that, say, Box Whites have with the click bar, but it's pleasant. And I feel that if I was to put O-rings on these, it would certainly dampen that bottom out sound. Though the spacebar with that purple switch was definitely a little bit unusual. Though the enter actually feels like it's heavy too. So I'm just going to check that. I might be wrong, but it just felt a little bit heavier as well. And haha, I'm not wrong. It's got a purple switch as well. Oops. Check it out. It's got a purple switch. I do not know why you would do that. I do not know why you... So, do all of these long, stabilized keys have purple switches? That is another mystery, because there's the blue, there's the purple. Some interesting design choices here, some interesting manufacturing choices here, but who am I to question these decisions that they have made? So yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Now, while I've got those off, the LEDs are definitely doing something internally, but you can see the color split. Well, you probably can't see it because the camera is saturating, but the color split on these is, yeah, these bits of plastic really look more like just diffusion. Is that hot? I think they're hot. They're not too hot. They're a little bit warm. They're not like burning my fingers or anything like that. But those blocks that are meant to be diffusing, they don't look like they're diffusing at all, to be honest. So you might have a better chance of getting some actual light movement if you don't have those blocks. And what makes it even weirder is the fact that the clear tops, they don't seem to be doing anything. So that's a little bit weird. But then again, this is my first RGB keyboard, so maybe that's actually normal for all of them. I don't know. I do not know. But yeah, just checking out these caps again. Like, they're thin enough that I can press on them lightly on the walls of these longer keys, and they just flex. So you got to make sacrifices when you get to a price point like this. But there you go. There is the AJAZZ AK33 mechanical keyboard with AJAZZ, otherwise known as Zorro switches. So how would I rate it? I'd probably say it's a solid 7. I'd say a 7, 7.5. Really pushing it at that point, only because it's got a steel plate, it's solid, the flex is pretty good. You know, I can really push on it, and you can kind of see it does have a bit of movement, but that's a lot of force. On normal typing, it doesn't flex of any note. So I think that's actually really good. And yeah, once you roll that into the price, I think that's probably why it deserves a 7 or a 7.5. Rightio, now I've been talking a really long time because I've just realized this is 45 minutes. 45 minutes on a cheap keyboard. There you have it. If you like the review, hit like. If you know someone who's looking for a cheap keyboard, hit share. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, would love and appreciate that subscribe. And of course, if you're interested in actually seeing this keyboard and maybe purchasing it, checking it out if they have any sales, I do have a link to that in the description at GearBest. So once again, thank you very much to Olivia at GearBest for arranging to have this keyboard sent to me. I don't know what you were expecting out of this video from me, but that's how it went down. So thanks very much for checking out the video, and I hope you enjoyed this review, even if it was a bit long-winded. I'm sure I'm going to get plenty of comments about that because I have a habit of just rabbiting on. But I was excited about RGB, and right now I'm still sitting on the fence because I couldn't figure out that programming. So if anything, they need to get on to sending an English version of that quick application guide with their keyboards. Rightio. So thanks again. And of course, as usual, until next time, happy clacking.